Well, I don't want the United States to be isolationist either. But I'd prefer that our contacts with the rest of the world were done diplomatically, government to government, but also human to human, people to people programs. The old Peace Corps was a pretty good program. I know the CIA infiltrated it and in places and at times and did some pretty destructive things to it. But the concept, the idea, is a good one. People in service to others, using the concept of community. I think Republicans have attempted to destroy the ideas of community that Franklin Roosevelt put forward in the New Deal and New Deal programs. So we had the idea with Social Security and Medicare and caring for children. We have this concept that we are a community of people who work together, and we use our resources for the needs of other people. Republicans, it seems to me, want to, and some Democrats, many Democrats, they're funded, the Democratic Party, unfortunately, is funded by the same corporate sponsors as the Republicans, but they want to destroy those programs and say, you're on your own. Everybody is on their own, sink or swim. If you're poor, it's your own fault. And we're not, as a society, we're not going to look out for you. We're not going to care for you. But I think that attitude, I'm trying to get back to your question, I think that attitude carries forward in our relations with other people in the world as well. We're not isolationist now, we are provincial. What if it were easier for people to travel around the world, Americans, and work in programs and have exchanges back and forth? I would love to see us use some of our money to help people around the world. I have no problem with that at all. But not sending military force. We don't need to be sending covert military operations to Colombia. I think we could be sending some other things. By the way, the covert military operations, counterinsurgency they're calling it, right? It's supporting right-wing death squad-ish type governments. How about if we end the demand in our own country? And of course the problem is bigger than just people wanting drugs. But yeah, I don't want to be isolationist. I think we ought to be more engaged and involved in the world, but on a level playing field, and seeing other people in the world as fellow humans inhabiting this planet that we have seem to have messed up, and we have a severe problem with global climate change coming. We have hundreds of millions of refugees who are going to be moving around the world because of global climate change. The oceans are rising. They're already rising enough to drown people's place of living. For instance, in Alaska. There are Native Americans in Alaska who are now having to move their villages, their towns, because the permafrost is melting and the ocean is rising and inundating their villages. They have to move. The winter storms, the tide surges of the winter storms, are so severe now that it floods their towns. They have to move them. It's going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. But around the world, hundreds of millions of people are going to lose their homes, and they are going to be migrating. And we need to be prepared for that. Not with guns on the border, but with some kind of a humanitarian response to those people who are going to be looking to us for leadership and friendship. Yeah, I teach history at Grays Harbor College. I had a radio show on Northwest Indie Radio for almost a year, and it was wonderful. A left-wing call-in program, and it was it's streamed on the web. So I had friends all over the country who turned into my radio program every day. That was kind of fun. Grew up in Portland, Portland, Oregon. Went to the University of Oregon, earned my PhD there, got my bachelor's at Southern Oregon State. I teach political science as well, and one of the core documents I use in my political science class is the Constitution. And the Constitution that, well, you'd be, you know, Dave, funny you should mention that, because most political science courses, they don't use the Constitution as a foundation for it. But that's the focus of my class, the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, which were the first government of the United States, and it was a pretty good government, unless you were a member of the ruling class, and then it didn't look so good, so it had to be changed. And the Constitution and the Federalist Papers are the basis for my political science course.
Last August, we went to the Democratic Party picnic and Norm Dix was there, and he wasn't expecting us with our pressure for him to get onto impeachment. And as we talked to him, we talked about the Constitution, we talked about FISA, as a matter of fact, and the feeling I got was that either he doesn't really know it or he doesn't think it's important, because I think he's kind of off purpose, and we keep accepting the money he can bring in. We just got our Maritime Center groundbreaking up. We like the perks. He's good at getting the pork. But at some point, I think we have to say, we don't want that if you keep voting for this war. And it was just interesting, though, to know that I personally, and some other people were there, I think Nancy was, that I really didn't think he knew what was in the Constitution, nor did he consider it his rule of law. And
I served during the Vietnam era. I spent 4 years in the Air Force, and then and so our constitutional rights were limited in the military service. We didn't have some. They weren't available to us, and I felt that keenly because it was during the Vietnam War. Do you know that the President of the United States can order any one of us arrested? He can label us an unlawful enemy combatant and have us disappeared off the street. You know, the habeas corpus goes back to 1216, Runnymede. It's been around a while, 800 years. And our Congress let it go like that. And Norm Dix voted for that Military Commissions Act. I couldn't sit on the sidelines. This is horrible. You know, Norm Dix, I said before, when he reached his Gulf of Tonkin moment here, he failed us.